Of course, support us if you can, but I wanted to update you on another part of the story because there's still a tree protest going on as we speak. Multiple tree protests going on as we speak. But there's actually a tree protester that has literally been up in the tree for 46 days and is being deprived water and food. But CNN's not going to report it. The New York Times isn't going to report it. Frankly, not all independent media are reporting this story, unfortunately. So, Peterson's suit, because a lawsuit was filed, a Virginia state senator filed a lawsuit against the National Forest Service because the National Forest Service is the one denying. The protester's name is Nutty. I don't know if that's her real name, but that's what they call her, Nutty. The Forest Service is denying water donations to her. So water donations have come in. They will not give it to her. Food donations, they will not give it to her. And they are trying to keep activists and water protectors and people who come in to support her that want to camp out near her, that want to be around her so she's not alone. This is what they did with Red and Minor in their tree protests. They're basically trying to isolate her and starve her or thirst her to death so she'll come down. So Peterson's suit, the state senator who's filing a suit against the National Forest Service, is also aimed at a site on Peters Mountain in Giles County on the West Virginia line. There, a protester identified only as Nutty has been living suspended from a pole or monopod since March 27th, blocking efforts to clear trees. Folks, that is, that's a month and a half she's been up there. On April 7th, the Forest Service closed a gravel access road to the public, but continued to allow Mountain Valley pipeline trucks, of course, to use it, saying it was unsafe for outsiders to be around the construction zone. Plenty safe for the oil company, but not activists. But Peterson said Wednesday that he didn't believe that explanation. His suit argues that the purpose of the closure is to prevent persons to reach Nutty or bring her provisions, as she is running short of food. Because the road is on public land, closing it is a violation of the First Amendment, Peterson said. People have a right to be there. This is a political act that's taking place. It's political expression. He filed the suit on behalf of 3 local residents who used the road. Peterson said there is no effort to seek money, only the opening of the road. And he said the suit is not specifically about getting supplies to the protester, although, he added, if we get up in front of a judge, I'm happy to go there. Spokesman for the U.S. Forest Service said the agency would not comment. I mean, this is the National fucking Forest Service, excuse my French, denying water and food to a United States citizen exercising her First Amendment. It's that simple. That is inhumane. And as far as we know, I'm about to read a statement from the protester, but as far as we know, how do we know she's healthy? How do we know she's not at risk of dehydration or, functions in her body not working? 46 days up there. She's been up there in frigid temperature, and she's been up there in sweltering heat. So I don't really know how she issued this statement, but this is a statement from her. It was on the Facebook page of the Appalachians Against Pipelines. And it's very, very powerful. Dear friends, over a month ago, while there was still snow on the ground, and I had no idea I was only just beginning my stay in this monopod, I was wondering about how I could use all the time I had to write in ways other than putting out Facebook updates. I decided to try and write letters. Letters to prisoners caged by the same legal system that sent cops to besiege me. Some after being prosecuted for their own involvement in eco-defense struggles. But by the time I had finished my first letter, the Forest Service had cut off all direct contact between me and my support crew, and I had no way to send it out. Once I'm on the ground again, I want to hold myself accountable to remembering to put time into communicating with people on the inside. Until then, I am writing to the many of you who follow my updates, hoping that you all will. Living up here, I've had a lot of time to realize more concretely the importance of contact and exchange with friends and caring supporters. Being able to exchange messages, shout across the closure about silly and serious things, reach out and receive such encouraging responses via social media, and find out about what's happening elsewhere in the pipeline fight and in the world has been tremendously important, especially as I endure the unbroken police presence. My experience is, of course, vastly different from that of incarcerated people. I am here of my own will, can leave at any time, and not subject to the brutality of prison guards or forced to labor for next to nothing. I am not the primary target of a white supremacist state that sends 1 in 3 black men to prison at some point in their lives. I, like all of us to varying degrees, live under the imminent threat of incarceration if my rebellion against the social order goes too far. But I have no basis from which to speak of the life behind prison walls. But I have no basis from which to speak of the life behind prison walls. What I have heard, however, from prisoner support and solidarity groups directly in contact with those behind bars is that similarly to what I have found while living here, car spending with people can help provide a lifeline against the demoralizing and alienating influences of confinement. A letter is, of course, no substitute for destroying the prisons themselves. There is no better example of the repressive nature of the state those of us in the so-called U.S. live under than that this nation incarcerates more of its own people than anywhere else in the world. So many are disappeared from their families and neighborhoods by the cops and systems of criminalization when this capitalist economy renders their survival inconvenient to the smooth functioning of the machinery of profit. It's this same extractive economy that continues to push those with a bit more privilege into jobs as pipeline workers, prison guards, soldiers, and police. This same economy that forces pipelines through. The anti-prison struggle is extremely relevant to all of us fighting pipelines and other fronts of ecological defense. It matters because prisons and pipelines are similar kinds of false solutions that claim to being benefits in the form of economic growth while being constructed through and building upon processes of exploitation and control. Here in so-called Virginia, West Virginia, the corporation claims the pipeline is justified by necessity and jobs. Not so far from here in Appalachia, in Letcher County, Kentucky, companies and lawmakers plan to build a new prison on the site of a former mountaintop removal coal mine using the same justifications. It matters because in this toxic industrial society, prisoners, along with poor communities in general, bear the cost of damaged ecosystems, often in the form of poisoned drinking water. It matters because as long as the state exists, and as long as we dare to try to effectively confront it and aspects of its destruction, such as fossil fuel infrastructure, the threat of incarceration will be used to curtail our actions, and some of us will end up behind bars. So fire to the prisons. And until the walls crumble, let's try and make them a little bit less impenetrable. Start writing. New York City anarchist Black Cross has a guide on their website to writing prisoners. Earth First Prisoner Support Project maintains a list on Earth liberation, prisoners, and some form allied struggles. Black and Pink has a list on their website of LGBTQ prisoners who have reached out. Check out Campaign to Fight Toxic Prisons for more on intersections between environmental and anti-prison struggles. Nutty. And here's a picture in her camp where she's protested, day 46, still here. So this woman, Nutty, is literally climbed up in a monopod pole for a month and a half, and you probably didn't know about it because protest of a pipeline doesn't get a lot of media play, does it? Not as sexy as, as Rudy Giuliani's diarific mouth turns. But this is American heroism. When normal people nonviolently exercise their First Amendment rights at great risk to themselves, it's not good for your health to go climb up in a tree in the freezing weather and then sweltering heat where you're not getting enough water, you're not getting enough food. It's a risk, and they're taking it to stop a natural gas pipeline. I say natural because it's not natural. Natural gas pipelines emit methane, which has been shown to be even worse than carbon dioxide for greenhouse gases. Pipelines, just when you put them under the ground, the earth moves. Scientists have shown this. The earth moves. They all leak. We don't know the majority of the time when they leak. They contaminate our groundwater. They contaminate our wildlife, our animals. When you're out in this land, Jen and I were out, all you hear is natural beauty. And all you see is natural beauty. Sounds of birds, clean air. What's right now clean water, but is at great risk. That is worth fighting for, whether you're an activist or a journalist.